the day 10 of recording videos daily and in fact streaming the video. So glad for everything. Therefore, today, therefore, without wasting any further time, today we will straight away dive into the video. Women in armed forces symbolizes both gender equality and national strength. Their inclusion enhances operational effectiveness, breaks stereotypes, and reflects constitutional values of equal opportunity in reality. Right? Without much beating around the bush, let us just get into the few datas and the facts and what actually women in armed forces means. Right? The participation of women in armed forces was the landmark judgment, and in this journey the gender equality was being balanced, right? Traditionally male dominated, the military was and used to be known as male dominated, and now increasingly women recognition in military, in leadership roles, combat and support roles like logistic, these things are happening, right? That's a very progressive thing to be seen in the armed forces. And this shift not only about gender representation, but also about strengthening the defense forces with diverse perspective, not just through the eyes of male, but also through the eyes of women, right? So that's there. Now we'll understand the historical background, where in early roles, right, women first entered the Indian military through the MNS, which stands for Military Nursing Service, and this was in the year back in 1888, and later in AMC, that again stands for Army Medical Corps, and later on, AFMC was opened for the NEET aspirants, right? That's there. And the AMC was specifically opened in the year 1958. So that's there. Second, recently in 2025, historical judgment, right, where 17 women 17 women girl cadet, they graduated from India, that stands for National Defense Academy. They graduated in 2025 for the first time, and then which was a big historic and uh, great step toward gender inclusive leadership and equality, right? So that's there. And thirdly, if we look in global context, countries like USA, Israel, and UK have long integrated women into combat roles, logistics, like JAG in judiciary, military judiciary, and so is India following their you know good footsteps, I would say. And if I have to talk about women in armed forces, specifically in India, you can recall Captain Lakshmi, Captain uh, Captain Lakshmi Seghal, and right, whom she was very trusted military leader, and our great Subhash Chandra Bose gave her the you know Rani, know, Rani Jhansi Regiment of the Indian National Army (INA), and even before pre-independence, we could see the roles of women in combat, right? So that's the. I am talking about the three brigades and one regiment of the Indian National Army for your reference. So that's there, and yeah. Now we'll dive into the significance of women in armed forces. Constitutionally, there are multiple rights, right? And it advocates for the gender equality, equal opportunity, equal pay, equal work, right? So on that very note, constitutional equality, Article 14, Article 15, Article 16, it upholds that the Indian Constitution ensures equal opportunity. Therefore, it becomes a mandate to open the gate for both male and female, right? Because if it is not implemented, or it is not or if it doesn't come into execution, then this, all the articles or the section or the clauses just remains in paper, right? Therefore, the gateway for women in armed forces, it's a mandate, right? That's there. And when we talk about significance, it also strengthens the operational success, right? Because it expands the talent pool, improves decision making, and enhances team performance, right? Because male and female, if they work collaboratively, then I don't think so anything in this planet is impossible or out of reach, right? Everything that falls under the sky collaboratively, male and female, for that matter, any group can do it, right? So that's there. And yeah, team collaboration among between men, women, it can boost the performance and strengthen the operational success, right? And third significance is social impact, breaks this stereotype, because what we usually see in Indian context is women, why to work, right? Stay within the four walls, serve your husband, serve your parents. That's the false mentality which our Indian mindset usually advocate. But on contrary to it, when the women are inducted in army, right, it breaks that very false and pathetic stereotype. So it's a great message for the mindset of Indian people who thinks women are just confined to four walls. So this very entry gives them a tight slap in their face, right? Because joining army is a great thing and a great pride in itself, and women getting inducted in army is a historic judgment and a very great inspiration to take, right? So that's there. It inspires young women, right, and promotes again inclusivity in the traditional male space. So that's there. And last significance is leadership potential. Women officers, right, as we recently saw in Ops Indur, again, hats off to all the shoulders and association and organization associated with the Operation Sindoor, and really, really, really my sincere gratitude to them. And exceptional bravery shown by our armed forces. And in that process, female officers and female soldiers did a wonderful job, exceptional, right? Women officers like, Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh have demonstrated, professionalism and leadership in operations. I'm not just highlighting the two figures that I have named, but there are lots, behind the curtains, right? Some might be from signals, some might be from, ordinance. They did wonderfully. They executed all the planned operation wonderfully, and as a result, the Opsindur was a huge, huge, huge success, right? And this success is inevitable when male and female officers, soldiers work all together, then inevitably success, has to be there and it will come to you. So we can see in Operation Sindoor, this was the recent operation I could highlight and give an example of in this contemporary times, that how women and male officers can have a collaborative teamwork and can gain upper hand in any sort of adversities. So that's there. Along with the significance, there are few challenges as well of women getting inducted in army, and will unravel it. So first challenge is physical standards. Concern, it's a big concern, because physically everyone would agree rationally that women are comparatively less, you know less powerful, or physically they are quite not strong as compared to men. So this very things hampers in combat endurance, right? So they need a lot of training, right? And next disadvantage or drawbacks is infrastructures. Normally army traditionally have been designed for male, right? It was very patriarchal, and the government or the organization have to build a lot of you know like different infrastructure for women, right? Because there is a lot of need of gender sensitive facilities in army, specifically in training, right? And also in there are a lot of problems which golf faces, right? So the government and organization have to look after it, right? Like normal, like what do we call it, menstrual cycle, right? Pregnancy. So proper function and proper facilities must be given to the women in the armed forces, which in a way becomes again a drawback for women, because army, they must stay active 24/7, right? So on that note, this is one drawback. And third drawback is mindset barrier. There is even now persistent stereotype and resistance from the traditional societies, and some sort of section of our society even now do not acknowledge that women getting into army, they do not, they see it as a very derogatory thing, that women joining army, you know so that's there. So that even it must not be seen as a drawback. However, the mindset of people matters. In fact, when majority of people are like that, so it definitely becomes a drawback. And thirdly, it is the I'm sorry, this one would be the loss, least and last drawback, that is policy gaps, limited combat roles for women compared to men, right? And in this domain, the organization is working, right? And that's there. So not just problems and significance, I will also dive into the way forward, what are the solution to the problems that has been discussed. So equal opportunities, expanding women entries into combat and higher roles, right? Because there was one policy where women cannot go beyond the rank of colonel, right? So that policy have to be, rectify and revive, and have to make another policy where they can have a large, leadership role with the great and high jurisdiction. And also they, I think they are potent enough to, you know for high command, right? High positions, So that's there. And another way forward is training and infrastructure, as I've mentioned earlier. Provide gender sensitive facilities, specifically in training, right? And yeah, everything must be managed when it's women in training. Everything must be managed. Also, compromising standards is not very encouraged to. So everything must be managed when we specifically talk about women and in infrastructure. So that's there. And third is culture change. Sensitize. We must sensitize people to know that women are capable and they are good enough for the forces and they contribute immeasurably, right? As we can see in Opsindur, and there are multiple operation I could name of, right, where women does play a lot of roles, maybe not directly, but indirectly through logistics, through medical facilities, so that's there. So a lot of awareness programs must be organized to cater people with the cheap Indian mindset who do not want and who you know do not acknowledge you know girls getting into army. So for them, a lot of awareness program must be organized just to make feel them okay, that okay is okay. All right, so that's there. And yeah, lastly, it's a great lesson to learn that we must learn from other nations, right? Like Israel, you know, US, UK, who have successfully integrated women in their army and, for that matter, in combat. So that's there from my side. Now, in summation, the inclusion of women in the armed forces is not just the matter of equality, but it is the strategic necessity for our India, because by embracing diversity, India strengthens its defense capabilities and sets an example of progressive nationhood. Women in uniform embody courage, resilience, and the promise of more inclusive future. Again, remembering the Rani Jhansi regiment of the INA and all our soldiers who fought, for our great nation, right? And also my tribute to all the soldiers who did and performed exemplary in the recent Ops Indur. My utmost respect and deep and profound gratitude to them. May God bless all of us and all our efforts. If you have been watching till the end, thank you so much. Really glad to have viewers like you. Thank you and joined.